welcome to Arthritis Answers. I'm Kendall Horvatich, Development Manager for the Arthritis Foundation.
And my name is Jillian Lain. I'm the Community Engagement Director for the Arthritis Foundation here as well.
So we are going to talk about advocacy today, and advocacy, a lot of people don't understand what it is, and so we thought we'd spend today kind of explaining what it is and what some of the Arthritis Foundation initiatives are.
So a part of what the Arthritis Foundation does is advocate for people with arthritis, and I think that advocacy can sometimes be a scary word for people, and it can be intimidating, and so we kind of wanted to just break that down for you, let you know what advocacy actually is, talk a little bit about how you can advocate with the foundation and some of our priorities going through 2016 this year. So first, we're going to go ahead and why do we advocate? So if you're watching us on television, you can see some of these comments. We advocate because people often are having to say no to things in life because their arthritis is holding them back. And so one of the main reasons we advocate is for to improve the lifestyle of people with arthritis, but also to increase access to healthcare, create more affordable medications, because these are some of the barriers that folks with arthritis will face. And so we kind of try and advocate for those folks so they can have a little bit better lifestyle going forward.
Yeah, it's one step besides medication to help them feel better, just day-to-day life challenges they may have with insurance or whatnot.
Absolutely. So, so what is an advocate? What does it mean to be an advocate? So, like I said, it's helping improve the life of folks with arthritis, but it also, the bigger thing, which I think is the intimidating part for people, is changing government policy. So, like I said, we'll break that down a little bit and talk about that a little bit more, but that's a big part of what being an advocate means, is to kind of make those legislative changes to, kind of create those parameters to make it a little bit easier to live with arthritis.
Yeah, I think that's the scary part, is people are like, oh, I have to talk to people in government, but it's really, it could be as simple as posting something on Facebook or Twitter.
Absolutely, and a lot of times our advocates are just sharing their story and sharing their experience. So it's really just talking about what you've been through and who's a better expert than you to tell that story.
Yeah.
So that's a big part of what being an advocate is really sharing your story. And a lot of times legislators need to hear those kind of stories, and that's what they really want to hear. They may not want to hear as much about the ins and outs of a bill or certain legislation, but they want to hear about you and learn about your experience. So those are the really powerful pieces. Advocacy 101. So there's different types of advocacy. So personal advocacy, so this is kind of like I said, sharing your story, sharing your experience or a loved one's experience. So really kind of taking the personal route with advocacy. It could be community advocacy, so this is kind of a little bit bigger, so going beyond yourself, but maybe talking about your community, the neighborhood that you live in, maybe certain organizations or, the church that maybe you belong to. So it's going from personal to community, which is just a little bit bigger. And then beyond that is media advocacy. So Kendall kind of talked a little bit about social media, using the internet, sending emails. So media advocacy is more about public awareness. So raising the knowledge on a bigger scale. And then legislative advocacy, so this is reaching out to your local official, contacting your representatives, and that could be via email, by a handwritten letter, but it can also be just making a quick phone call and saying, I'm one of your constituents and this issue is important to me and this is my story. And then lastly is policy, so that's really kind of digging into the bills that might be crossing the table of your legislators. So that's kind of the biggest, the biggest kind of community reach that you're really looking at is policy. So what does an advocate do? We kind of talked about this a little bit. So like I said, it could be writing a letter to your legislator, but it could be writing a letter to your newspaper as well. So Kendall's kind of our marketing guru in our office. So writing op-eds, writing letters to the editor can be really, really powerful and get that kind of media attention that we talked about.
Yeah.
And then another big part is just staying up to date on what's happening. So a lot of folks are watching the news every morning, so you're probably much more in tune to the advocacy and legislative efforts that are happening than you even realize. So that can just, yeah, like I said, watching the news every morning, reading your local newspaper, and staying up on current events. That's a big part of what being an advocate is all about.
Yeah, and when you sign up as an advocate for the Arthritis Foundation, you get updates of what things are important to the arthritis community. So you kind of have it in your inbox with all the updates of the laws that are affecting those with arthritis.
So it really keeps you in the loop and in the know. But again, just paying attention to what's happening in your community through your local media outlets is another big part of that. And then I had mentioned calling your elected officials, so letting them know that certain issues are important to you and that you'd like for them to kind of pay attention to a certain bill, or it can just be a general issue as well that you're concerned about. And again, telling your story. So again, you're the expert on a lot of these issues if you've been there and been through some of the barriers that may happen with folks with arthritis. So sharing your experience can be really powerful as well. And that's one of the things we ask our advocates to do quite frequently. So how to become an advocate. Kendall mentioned joining our bi-monthly newsletter. So it kind of shares the legislative updates, but if there's anything in terms of a call to action, that's another big part of what the newsletters do. And then there's educational webinars as well. So signing up for the newsletters can really be beneficial in keeping you in the know of what's going on. And again, we don't want to bombard your inbox, so we kind of try to keep them limited and not kind of overwhelming, because it can be sometimes. So that's what being an advocate with the foundation means, but also you can be an ambassador. So essentially, the ambassador is a step up from being an advocate. So this is getting those emails, but also taking the next step and reaching out to your state and federal representatives, and really kind of taking to those calls to action that are coming out in those newsletters, whether it's signing a petition, writing your legislator, posting something on your Facebook or Twitter, sharing information with your family members or through your networks. That's the ambassador is just kind of a step up from the advocate.
Yeah, and a lot of people sometimes they don't know who their elected officials are, and there's links in those emails that will help you enter your address, and it'll tell you all your elected officials and how to contact them, whether it's their social media accounts, their email addresses, or their phone numbers. So it's a really easy way for you to connect with them.
Absolutely, and a lot of times we will also give you kind of a written script to use. So you don't even have to go that far. What do I say when I get there? We kind of give you those talking points, which is really great. So yeah, that's what it means to be an advocate with the foundation, and kind of some advocacy 101. In the next session, we'll talk a little bit more about some of our priorities.
When Margaret and I decided to sell the old estate here, we had only one choice in signage. Logan Street signs and banners. Conveniently not located on Logan Street anymore, but rather located on 10th Street on the south side of Noblesville. Well, we sold the old beauty, and we were able to buy this wonderful estate. And we had so much money left over, I was able to buy this beautiful 1968 Eldorado Cadillac for Margaret. Only 472,000 miles. Margaret loves it because it's got those big seats and that heavy-duty suspension to support her svelte frame. Next time you're looking for signs or banners, call old Jim at Logan Street Signs and Banners, 773-7200. Conveniently not located on Logan Street anymore.
Welcome back to Arthritis Answers. We just got done talking about what advocacy is, what it means, and how you can get involved with our advocacy efforts at the Arthritis Foundation. And now we're going to talk a little bit about what some of the priorities are for 2016 for the Arthritis Foundation.
Perfect. So we have a variety of different priorities on a national level, but also on a local level. So we'll kind of talk through some of those priorities as we move forward in 2016. So access to care, that is a big kind of umbrella issue that we cover on a national level. So one of the biggest things is we have been working to pass the Patients Access to Treatment Act. It's kind of a mouthful. And create, which will create 25 to 50% of the drug costs instead of kind of fixed copays. So that's one of the national issues that we're working on. And so access to care can mean a bunch of different things. That can be access to specialists or rheumatologists. That can be access to the medication to make it affordable, which kind of this act is talking about. So access to care is kind of an umbrella term, but that's often what we're referring to when we talk about that. And then also increased access to pediatric rheumatologists. So only about a quarter of kids have access to pediatric rheumatologists. So this is a big issue that we are really trying to raise awareness on. And I think we've talked about this in a previous episode as well, but there are some states that have no pediatric rheumatologists, and a lot of our kids with juvenile arthritis have to travel really far, even if they do have access.
Yeah, and because of the limited number of the pediatric rheumatologists, the wait to get in as a new patient can be ridiculous. Mm-hmm. I know one of the families we work with, when her son was first diagnosed, he was about 14 months old, and the wait to get into the hospital that was just a few minutes away from their home was 8 months. 8 months of her son just waiting. So instead she decided to drive 2 hours to get into another hospital because they had a shorter wait time for new patients. But a child who's in pain with arthritis shouldn't have to wait 8 months to visit a doctor.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's a really big issue that we're working on a national level, and it's going to be really important for our kids with arthritis. Okay, so research and prevention, that's another big piece of what we do. And so some of the research priorities that we are looking at is currently we're working with the Department of Defense to kind of raise some awareness about osteoarthritis in our veterans and service members, and to kind of allocate some resources to explore, why is our veteran population so susceptible to arthritis, and is there any kind of preventative measures that we can explore? So that's a big research priority that we're working on. And from the last I heard, it sounds like things are looking hopeful to make further progress on that, which is exciting. But there will definitely be more to come on that.
Yeah, and an interesting fact is that arthritis and side effects of arthritis is the second most common cause of medical release from the military, which I think most people don't think about that, but it's a huge amount of people who are being released from the military because of their side effects. And some of these people have never been in active combat. It's just the training and stuff that they go through on a daily basis.
Absolutely. So in the general population, 1 in 5 people have arthritis. For our military population, it's 1 in 3, which is pretty astounding. And it's a lot of very young people in their 20s. So it's something that we really need to explore, considering the numbers compared to the general population as well. So another research priority is increasing the funding for arthritis prevention with the Center for Disease Control. So that's another big national research priority that we're exploring, and I think we're actually getting some headway as well. I read the email this morning, or that came out yesterday, that sounds like that partnership's growing, so that's also really great news. And then also for the National Institute of Health, also just supporting arthritis research there as well. Okay, so another big piece, awareness. So we have folks for the foundation that across the country that work day in and day out with our advocacy priorities. And one of the things that they've been working really hard on is building our Arthritis Caucus. And what this means is that we're really trying to work on building basically a team of legislators to advocate for arthritis. And so it's bipartisan, it's a forum that's being developed in Congress to really work to address arthritis. So these are kind of going to be our champions in in the various state houses across the country and on a federal level as well, that are going to really kind of speak up for arthritis issues, which is something that's really important, because obviously we can't be in every state house across the country, and we can't be in DC every day to make those asks and make it known that arthritis issues are very important. So we are kind of tapping to our legislators to help us with that.
And this is a good opportunity if your legislators have not joined the Arthritis Caucus. One of those calls to action might be for you to reach out to them and share your story about why arthritis is an important thing.
Absolutely, and the more folks that we have supporting, the better. So yeah, that's one of the awareness building things that we're doing. And then I wanted to just kind of touch on some of our accomplishments from the last year. So there's a number listed. If you're watching us on TV, you can kind of see, but I'll just kind of talk about some of the most important ones that I think. So we talked about what it means to be an advocate. Nationally, we have over 125,000 e-advocates and advocates. So it's really, really powerful to see those numbers, and more people power, the better, the more that our voice is being heard, and people with arthritis, their voice is being heard. So that's a really, really great number, and it's been growing exponentially.
Yeah,
so,
I want to say when we started 2015, it was like 70,000. So a huge accomplishment over 2015.
Yes, definitely, and there's a lot of people with arthritis, over 50 million. So we still have a long way to go. So if being an advocate is something of interest to you or folks that you know, signing up for that e-newsletter is going to be a really, really big step. And I'll talk about that in the next segment on how to sign up for that. And then we engaged in over 159 bills in 46 different states, so our footprint is large in terms of geography as well. And then over 4,000 letters that were sent to Congress. So we talked about how to be an advocate, and our advocates really showed up and wrote those letters in the last year too, which is really great. So yeah, that's kind of a little bit of what we've done in the last year. And in the last segment, we're going to talk about how to get involved, how to sign up for those newsletters, and how to really be an advocate.
We'll be right back.
When Margaret and I decided to sell the old estate here, we had only one choice in signage. Logan Street signs and banners. Conveniently not located on Logan Street anymore, but rather located on 10th Street on the south side of Noblesville. Well, we sold the old beauty, and we were able to buy this wonderful estate. And we had so much money left over, I was able to buy this beautiful 1968 Eldorado Cadillac for Margaret. Only 472,000 miles. Margaret loves it because it's got those big seats and that heavy-duty suspension to support her svelte frame. Next time you're looking for signs or banners, call old Jim at Logan Street Signs and Banners, 773-7200. Conveniently not located on Logan Street anymore.
Welcome back. We've covered a lot of information about what is advocacy, how to become an advocate, what are the Arthritis Foundation's priorities. Now we're going to talk about how you can join us and get involved.
Yes, so for you internet savvy folks out there, the best way to get involved is to sign up online for the email. So where do you find that information? So if you go to arthritis.org/advocate, that's how you can sign up. It's super easy. It's just a quick online form that you'll fill out, and that will sign you up for those bi-monthly emails that we talked about earlier. And then if you're interested in being an ambassador, that's another, at that link you can also find the ambassador sign up. So if you kind of just want to get your feet wet, maybe just sign up for the email and be an e-advocate, but if you really kind of want to dive in and really get that hands-on involvement, I would recommend signing up to be an ambassador, both of which, like I said, you can find at that link. And then we also have an annual advocacy summit. This is something that happens in DC every year. This year it's going to be in mid-March, so it's coming up really soon. But that being said, when you sign up for these emails, you can stay in the loop for attending the Advocacy Summit. So what does that mean exactly? The Advocacy Summit is a place where you can get advocate training. You'll be trained there, but also you'll be going and visiting with your legislators, which is really neat to kind of get those meetings set up and get FaceTime with your representatives. So that's what the Advocacy Summit is all about, and we offer scholarships and travel reimbursement, things like that. So in terms of the cost, we can help assist with that. So kind of just keeping that in mind, but we the more the merrier as far as that goes.
Yeah. And there's also an option to do the virtual summit, and you can find out more information on arthritis.org/advocate about that, but kind of the digital way if you can't go in person but still want some of the information that'll be shared there.
Yep, absolutely. It's a great event. I've heard really, really great reviews from folks locally that have gone, so I definitely recommend checking that out. And then locally we have an advocacy committee. This is a part of our kind of local leadership board, but as being a part of the advocacy committee is a great way to get involved locally if you want to get involved in local trainings, local volunteer opportunities. If you're somebody who would like to kind of share information and maybe speak about advocacy, that's a great way to get involved. And honestly, I help manage that committee, so if you want to get involved, you can get in contact with me, which I believe is on my contact information is shared on the TV screen, but I can share my email address, which is jlain@arthritis.org. So you could just shoot me an email, we can get you plugged in, and being a part of the advocacy committee is really fun. It's kind of monthly phone calls, and again, you'll kind of be the subject matter expert locally with that committee. And then, last but not least, just getting involved with our local events. And Kendall, I'll let you kind of talk about some of our annual events we have coming up. But we try to incorporate advocacy in each of those events because it is a great way to get involved, and a way to get involved even if maybe you can't, come out on site all the time. But it's a good way to stay in touch with the foundation. So you can find our local event information at arthritis.org/Indiana, but Kendall, I'll let you talk a little bit about our local events we have coming up.
Yeah, the event coming up the soonest is our Walk to Cure Arthritis on May 21st on IUPUI's campus at Wood Plaza. And at that event, we'll have registration forms to sign up to be an advocate. We'll have information. There's actually a lot of exciting stuff going on as an advocate here locally in the last couple months. I think we talked about it last month. We talked a little bit about the initiative with the Senate passing the step therapy bill, and it moved on to the House Insurance Committee, I believe. And I believe they're voting today or tomorrow on whether or not it goes to become an official bill, which is really exciting for the people here because a lot of the people we work with are having trouble getting the medication that their doctor recommends for them.
Yeah, absolutely. So keep that in mind. If you have a few minutes today, or even if like tomorrow you just want to give your representative a call and just say, hey, Senate Bill 41 is really important to me. I just really recommend you vote yes on that. And that will really help kind of give the power to your physicians to say, you need this medication.
This is the medication that you need, and your insurance company can't tell you otherwise.
Yes, absolutely. So that's a big thing that's coming up. And then the walk as well.
Yeah. So next month we are going to have 2 of our walk honorees join us. The mother of our 6-year-old honoree will be here, as well as Ann Taylor, who is a big advocate and volunteer for us, but she's actually had some issues with step therapy, so we'll talk about that on top of all the other things she's gone through in the last year. So we'll see you next month. Thank you.